On today's episode, we're going to be talking about quantum healing hypnosis and inner earth beings. Stay tuned. Hi, my name is Bradley Scott, and I am with Wildfire and Earth Reiki, Shamanism, and Quantum Healing Hypnosis. I'm so excited to make this video today. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and so let's just go ahead and dive in, because I have been having downloads and synchronicities and just so much information going on about quantum healing hypnosis and how to tap into your multidimensional being. So in my last video, we talked about how we are all in this 3D realm and we are able to transmit our consciousness or ascend into different levels of being. Those beings being 4D, 5D, 6D, and even higher. So what I want to talk to you about today is my first experience with quantum healing hypnosis. Now, my quantum healing therapist did an amazing job. It was a great 3-hour session. Yes, they are that long. But what happens during a quantum healing session is you come into the room, you lay down on a bed or a couch or something comfortable so that you can be anchored in the 3D world. The reason they do this is because they are actually taking you into a very deep delta state of consciousness. And so if you are insecure or you feel like you're going to fall off, you can actually take yourself out of the trance, if that makes any sense. Because on this delta state, a lot of hypnagogic jerks happen and you get that sensation of vertigo. So since you're going to be moving through the dimensions, they want you to have a good foundation to be set upon. That way you can use your body as an anchor to be moving forward. If you studied anything about astral projection, or you've done your own meditations, you understand that all of these practices really kind of try to instill that foundation of being within yourself so that you can leave your body and travel, kind of leave your body and your consciousness be free because you have a good foundation set here, okay? So that's what quantum healing hypnosis starts with. Then they lay you down and you actually are led through kind of a meditation, and they kind of teach you how to understand the vision and symbolism that you're going to be receiving. And the therapist actually talks to you as they lower you through different levels of consciousness. You actually start to remember past lives and even current lives that you are experiencing on different dimensions. Now, during my quantum healing hypnosis, I actually went through 3 separate past and kind of present lives that I'm going to be talking to you about today. The first was actually a past life, or since time is cyclical, you could say one that is happening parallel to our time period, and our timeline was actually a timeline that happened during the fall of Atlantis. Now, many people, many spiritualists and mystics all tap into Atlantean origins. I have a firm belief that that's because at that time period, and this vision kind of backs that up, we broke the world with some of our abilities and some of our choices, and they weren't the best thing to do. It was actually doomed civilization, and possibly actually began to create this matrix that keeps us locked in here because we were given toys and tools and we misused them. So during my vision that I had in a deep trance of quantum healing hypnosis, is I actually was a kind of a naval officer slash priest, and I was given a key. And this timeline actually happened when I was dropped into the present body of that person existing in that timeline of right after the fall of Atlantis. Is the civilization had a special key, and it was broken in parts and given to different individuals that was sent out into the world so that it could not be put back together, and we had to have a certain circumstance or a certain, criteria had to be met before we were given this technology and sciences and knowledge again. Well, I was one of the holders of this key, and I find myself, the moment I'm dropped down into this other being, this other consciousness, I'm standing on a port, and I notice there are ships coming in, and I notice there's some Atlantean and different nationalities, and I know this because of the sails that they had on the ships and their cargo and different symbols. I knew the symbols, and I knew that that was a certain nationality or a certain race, and etc. And I almost felt like I was on the coast of Greece or Rome, and I had come to an Atlantean naval port, fleeing the island's destruction. And I'm with my bodyguard, and he is actually a good family friend. We grew up together. I was part of the priesthood, and he was part of the army and navy that was to protect the priesthood that was there. And so it was so disorienting being in a different consciousness, because you see other people that you recognize from this plane of existence. Their faces don't look the same, their body doesn't look the same. Sometimes they can have black hair or red hair or yellow hair. Their race can be completely different. And it was amazing that I would see someone on the street and be like, oh, that's a person that I went to school with, or oh my gosh, that's the lady that I have she's one of my clients. It's insane that our souls keep meeting over and over again. We reincarnate in groups. And so right now, I think the reason a lot of us are having these Atlantean visions is because we're reincarnating again to fix what was broken. And so in this vision, I actually am meeting someone in the market, and we go into like this little, almost like a restaurant, but it wasn't called a restaurant. I think it was just, like a place where people gathered to have some drinks in the late afternoon or early evening. And I met there, and I was supposed to give her some information, but it was an assassination, and I ended up being killed. And it was my bodyguard that stabbed me. And as I'm going through my death process in this past life, I see myself lifted above. I had an outer body experience where I'm looking down at myself bleeding out, and my bodyguard gets inside my robes and pulls out my piece of the key. And so that was a very interesting part of going into a past life, knowing that I had a key, and it was taken from me violently, in a violent betrayal of a best friend. And so it's something that I brought back into this life, is that be very careful whom you trust. Not everyone has your best intentions at heart. And I'm not sure if I was on the side of the good or if I was on the side of the bad in this one, but it's all, my sense was that I was on the side of good, and I was trying to keep this weapon or this information from spreading and causing more danger. And I feel like the people that killed me wanted to give this over to military people or whatnot. It's a very different civilization than what we're in now, but also very similar, that people will be killed for their secrets and their knowledge, and people that have this knowledge are silenced and taken out of the picture, so that other people who think they know better take the information and run with it. So that was my first lifetime. My second lifetime was actually really, really interesting in that I was taken, so you go up, and then I was taken further down history. You kind of travel, but I was actually traveling towards, so I went all the way back to the beginning, like Atlantis, and then I started traveling towards the present. And in the next life, I was actually a bodyguard for Queen Nefertiti. And we are trying to get her out of Egypt as fast as possible because King Akhenaten is very upset. And what happened is Nefertiti is pregnant with, as you know, King Tut and King Tutankhamun, and it was not Akhenaten's child. And so he was very upset, and he wanted to rule over this child, King Tutankhamun, and Nefertiti's life and her very presence was in danger. And so I was her bodyguard in this scenario. And so it's interesting how they have parallels. In the first one, I was the one being guarded. On the second one, I am the guard. And so I had the choice. Do I give her up to King Akhenaten, or do I completely go against everything that my protocol, my training, and do the right thing? Well, I decided to do the right thing because Nefertiti asked me to spirit her away. So I drop into this lifetime of Nefertiti is standing on the shore with reeds, and I'm there with a boat, and I am getting her across the Nile to get away from Akhenaten's men in the dead of night. There's torches, and I can remember the smells, and it was so vivid. And I knew in that moment I was doing the right thing for history. And of course, as we all know, King Tutankhamun grew up to be an amazing king, most venerated, and his funerary ornaments were some of the most exquisite Egyptian archaeology we have in the present. So it was so neat to be on the winning side of history in that lifetime. Now, the next lifetime is a little bit of a trip, because the third lifetime that I went into, and the final one before we actually started talking to Source, was that I was an inner earth being. Now, this is really cool because a lot of light workers and a lot of quantum healing hypnosis people have been tapping into the civilization that lives in the inner earth. And I actually tapped into a multidimensional being who is a part of this civilization. And he gave me some names and some different things that I was able to look up after my quantum healing hypnosis, and found out that these things are real, and people have actually written about them centuries before I actually even had this experience. It's insane what starts happening whenever you delve into your mind and into these multidimensional existences. So that third lifetime was that of a man who is kind of a commander in the Inner Earth Society. And they call this Inner Earth Society Agartha. And Agartha is kind of like the old inner earth, hollow earth theory. If you've read anything about Journey to the Center of the Earth, things like that, it's very similar. It is kind of a prehistoric, beautiful place that is very lush and green. That was my first perception of it the moment I dropped into this consciousness. And I knew that I was myself. I knew that I was Bradley, but I also knew that a part of me was this other being, that this was happening at the same time. So literally, while I'm on a table in unconscious, I am conscious in this inner world reality. So I am living two realities, probably way more than that if we talk about the dimensions, but I'm living part of this reality here where I am conscious. And I was actually able to tap into this man's consciousness, and he was telling me, or not really telling me, but he was speaking to Bradley laying on the table and saying, you are a part of a coalition that is trying to help ascend the world. You are actually a commander in this place here. And so I was sitting in a room that was kind of spherical, but it was also very organic and mechanical at the same time. So they actually have these like organic type machines, like think of root systems to a tree, but they're organic. machines. I don't know really how to describe that well. I don't have the vocabulary for it. But their world is literally a seamless blend between mechanical and organic. And so but they also have tapped into amazing spiritual and psychic ability in that they can project their consciousness into different timelines and different time periods. And since they're so high vibrational density, or less density, sorry, not as dense as us, so high vibrational, they actually don't experience time like we do. They think our planet is precious, and they're here to help us ascend and join them in this ascension and in this conscious connection of different multi-dimensional experiences. And it was so neat because I tapped into his consciousness and my consciousness, and he was standing and he had his hands overlooking kind of a pool, and it was kind of a room that went down, but it was some sort of liquid gel that he was seeing into, and there were these pods that were in there, and people were sitting in it projecting their consciousness. And he was able to do it by just standing there and doing it. I think there's different levels. Like here on Earth, we're all gifted at different levels. So he was training other people how to dive into these timelines and affect change and help different things, because the human race, as we know, with global warming and nuclear warfare and everything, hasn't had the best reputation for preserving life and helping everyone ascend and have an equal opportunity. Well, this society in Inner Earth really thinks that if they can tip the balance a little bit towards compassion, towards kindness, towards oneness, that we will actually become a society that really cares about one another and really wants everyone to succeed and wants everyone to be healed and healthy. And that's what they're doing. They go into this consciousness and they kind of, when we tap into meditation, we tap into the seamlessness of timelessness. When they go into meditation, because they are timeless, they tap into time. I hope that makes sense. But they're able during meditation to tap into our time and pick timelines, and they can go in and make small adjustments, not actually physically changing things, but changing the ideas and thoughts in our minds, because I feel like each of us is connected to one of these beings. We are incarnating now, multitudes of us, so that we can help humanity ascend and learn how to disconnect from what we think we should be doing and actually pursue healthy and beneficial societies where we're not using more than we take, where we're not constantly destroying the environment, but we are actually healing it and helping it. That goes all the way back to Genesis, where Adam and Eve were the caretakers of the garden. They named all the animals, they named all the plants. They were literally living a life of abundance. We're supposed to be moving back to that, where we become the caretakers versus the ones that are destroying our home. And these Inner Earth beings are so amazing in that they are literally tapping into our lives and saying, I am you and you are me. And if we can do this together, we can save this world together, which I think is something huge for humanity to realize, is that we are not alone. We are not in this fight alone. We are being given beautiful ideas on how to help the planet if we would listen. We need to implement these ideas. It's time. Our time clock is running out. If you've watched any of Greta and her skipping school for the environment and refusing to go because she will not have a future, you really need to check her TED Talk out. I will link it down below. It's time. We have to start healing our planet now, because if we don't, my nieces who are 9, who are 8 and 4 are not going to have a bright future. They're going to have a future where they can't go out into the sunlight because it will burn them up. They're going to not have crops or food, so they will literally starve to death. and they will have famine. And what's bad is whenever this global warming finally gets to a ticking, a teetering where it tips over, we are going to experience an avalanche of the earth will try to right itself. And so then we'll be thrown into either an ice age or a desert. It's not looking good. And these inner earth people are literally telling us, please care about yourselves, care about other people, care about the planet. It's important that we start changing now. Stop emissions. Don't just reduce them. Don't just let the petroleum and the gas people win and the oils. We have to stop it immediately. There has already been so many ideas on how to stop this. We have to implement them immediately, or we as a race and these other races that call this planet home are going to be without a home. And I feel like they're coming here now trying to say it's time to fix this problem. Your world is falling apart and you are destroying it, and we are here to help. And what's neat is once I connected to this consciousness, this beautiful society called Agartha, I saw what we could be. We could be connected so deeply with Earth and to everyone else's consciousnesses that when one of us hurts, we all usher in to heal them. We all send energy. It doesn't just have to be Reiki. It doesn't just have to be prayer. It can be so much more than that on a completely cellular level of actually healing other people. So I want to end this video by saying there is hope. There are others trying to help us. There are more things outside of our philosophy than we ever could have imagined that are trying to help us. Angels and spirits and extraterrestrials are all focusing on Earth, saying it's time to help our mother. It's time to help her heal. That is why women are becoming so empowered, is because they are hearing the cry of the mother saying this has to stop. We have to change as a society, or we will not be able to continue to go on as we have been. That was my takeaway from my quantum healing hypnosis, is that the time is now. We have to stop. We have to change, or there won't be a future. Thank you all for watching this video. I want you to tap into that compassion, to that kindness, to that oneness with self and mercy and grace, and know that we are all connected. If one of us stumbles, we all stumble. And it's up to all of us to stop putting our heads in the ground, putting our heads in the sand, and just pretending that this isn't happening. Letting the minority make the decision for the majority. That shouldn't be how it is, because what I learned from Atlantis is that if the minority gets to make the decision, they might not make the right one. So we have to do it together as a society, as a race, and as the human race. We have to protect this planet that we're on. We have to protect our mother. Remember, as you raise your vibe, you heal the tribe. Blessings, everyone.